Welcome back. So, I thought it would be a good time to continue on with shallograms. I have about 80 or 90 shallograms with images saved, so let's get into it. So for anyone who's not aware, also Happy New Year. I'm like 9 minutes away. So if you hear some fireworks, this is a New Year's Eve special or something, I guess. But for anyone unaware, I'm certain that shallograms are caused by current flows. Like this shape is physically etched into the stone by an eddy flow, like a vortex that forms on the rock as well as in the rock, like through it, saturating through it and pushing through it and flowing, and at times getting trapped in the rock and then breaking free as it forms an eddy. All sorts of cool stuff. We've gone through a lot of stuff. See my physics of shallograms, the physics of shallograms episode, like 3 or 4 or 5, some amount of episodes ago, as well as my whole shallogram playlist. Probably worth going backward to rather than forward as I progressed in my understanding of them. Very early on, I realized they're not caused by fossilization of a shell. So if we go to for instance, this is where they're found. This image we see right here features known as chakras. We see the lobe structure on the side, on both sides, with little extensions that the lobes do on both sides. And then we see over here shallogram-esque features, which I labeled here. So this, for instance, I mean, there's many instances of this, like this one over here. Looking very much like that, which is this chunk, this in here. Like I cut off this side and this side. It's only that portion up here and over here, but it essentially looks like that because it is that, because this thing here is part of a large-scale shallogram that formed here that still is in the region. The whole region, Damodar Kund, where shallograms are from in the Himalayas, is rife with shallograms. Like here's one, here's another one, here's another one. This is Damodar Kund. These lakes are shallograms. The larger scale, so like this. Not to get caught up on this, but just a little intro to the video. Feel free to go back and pause and look at the images a little more if you haven't seen them. Here's some others. Right here, chakra, lobe outward. This is in India, and then Tarim Basin. With these things over here, this over here, shallogram features. I've seen them. Here's Damodar Kund again. Very cool. I'm trying to think where I have, maybe it's this one. Here's Damodar Kund over here. Here's the lakes right there. And then those are within this larger structure, which is a lobe of a shallogram. And then these features are that, like, when I circled, there's features there that are kind of round, erosional features. And then this structure goes out, goes out, goes out in a way where it's shallogram itself. And then if we look, like, for example, Google Earth. Let me see while that loads. What else we got? Also, like this. I think it's M. Where's the galaxy one? Why is the galaxy one not in here? This is good enough. Minus me. Get me out. Just get me out of there for now. Chambers. Chamber, chamber, chamber. Chamber, chamber. Very much the same type of thing going on. Okay. And then real quick. This is where Damodar Kund is, right here. If we go like this, I'll bring me back, I guess. If we go like this, and get rid of that. Look here, there's a chakra that goes up to here. But then it has like a point that goes up to this point, and then over to the left, to the east. This is upside down, so to the east. Is Damodar Kund region. So we see this like lobe to compare to something like let's find a good one like this. Something like this. It looks very much like this. Which reminds me, there's another one right here. So they're all over the place here, but then right to the opposite side, if we consider this a chakra right here, interestingly, to this side, it almost looks like they changed the map. Is this updated? It's not as clear. There was a lobe-looking structure over here. I feel like I'm not seeing it right away. It might be there, but I don't see it as blatant as I thought it was. So I feel like they changed. There's also, it goes out further even this way. Chakra. And then like a nucleus structure here. Okay. Point is, they're not fossils, they form across scales. It's a fractal thing. It's relevant to everything because it's not just large scale. This happens small scale and really is like a frozen galaxy, a frozen atom. We can really see the structure of these things in detail by looking at shallograms. So we're just going to look at shallograms now. Let's get to it. This one here is from Vedic Vaini. So there's the chakras with the nucleus, and then interestingly it's got like a gap, and then the lobe is over here beyond the gap. It looks like the chakra with the nucleus has like an extension over here, because the nucleus itself is an ammonite shape. It tends to be separated from the rest by like a void, also in an ammonite shape. So sometimes this will happen where it'll have like an internal ammonite shape and then a void and then an external ammonite shape that fills the ends. Frequently it's like a quarter rotation lengthwise. It doesn't like go entirely. Okay, this one, let's just keep going. I'm not very... Wow. Where is that? I guess that's looking more directly in at this face over here. So we see... It's almost like this whole thing is a single chakra across here. And then there's like a second chakra that's smaller over here. Like this is a chakra right here. It goes up to it, and then a nucleus thing. But it's almost like it goes up to this level over here, and then like a larger structure is there. That's interesting. Okay, so that's that one. Here's a good example of one that just cannot be a fossil, which many I've gone through probably 100 by now, at least 50 that really distinguishably cannot be a fossil. So if this is a fossil, then this region here is the fossil, and then it was contained in some sort of matrix that it then fossilized in this rock, and that's basically the end of the story. But the thing is it has this up here and this down here. So that would suggest that this fossil, if it's a fossil, continued upward into like another chamber. But the thing is down, if that's the case, if it did that, it would go down and around, but not have these teeth. It would be more like this. Like following the contours of a chamber, but it really isn't. It goes straight down and straight back that way. And then it does it a little bit over here, which is what happens. Like basically what I'm saying is happening is this vortex that's forming inside this rock is what actually happened to the vortex formed inside this rock. It then grew to a point where it basically removed the material, and this is of water, a water-based vortex, that then removed the material as well as differentiated it to make it more pyrite here. But then it like occupies this space, and the pressure overwhelms the space, so it has to evacuate the pressure somehow. So what it does is it forms another chamber. Like it could form like that one we're just looking at, like this. I don't know if this one captures it, but sometimes they'll have more steps. Like maybe we could find a better one even with steps like this. Like right here, it'll have a step. So imagine that this lobe out here doesn't yet exist, and it only went to here, and then over here it only went to here, let's say. And then it extends over into this lobe and etches out this lobe, and then extends over here and etches out this lobe. And then it extends over here and begins to etch out this lobe, differentiates the material, basically removes the more easily removable fine-grained particles of the shale, leaving behind the pyrite type material, as well as etching the actual boundaries of the shape because that's where the current flow is most highest velocity along the boundaries. So it actually physically creates like a cut in the rock that stems off of the lobe, like kind of like this over here. Like here, it cuts this way, and connects to a point where it actually gets around it, and then it begins to first shape this material. So like this is smooth, but in some instances it's not smooth. It's very dendritic. So it shapes it like that by going around the boundaries and shaping a mass like this to become dendritic along the boundaries until it basically separates it so much from the mass itself that it's actually able to remove it, and then it gets removed, so it's like a void like over here. So that material's just gone, but then it's doing this one. So it's doing the same thing here, basically. Doing the same thing here. Kind of tried to do that here to a point where it reached. So this would be my interpretation. It reached like a position in the rock where it extended outside of the shell of the rock enough that it, instead of like wrapping around this way, which it really didn't even have enough material here to do so, it went this way, almost like currents do. Like shells don't really do that, currents do that. So there's some more images of this. So let's see if we can get an idea. So this side doesn't have these things. So these things are this is probably looking at this here, looks like it's this here. So we're looking at the two sides of the opposite side here. So like this face is here. Maybe? Or maybe it's down below. Down here. Let's see if we got some other poses. There we go. So this is a good example. Like, what is going on? If it's going around to connect to itself because there was a larger lobe, like one of these, to this shell initially that fossilized, then why is it going back this way? And notice how the rock isn't flat across, it's actually up and down, like butt cheeks. Got some butt cheeks here. We got a crack. This crack is basically occurring from a current flow that forms like a higher flow rate than anywhere else, to a point where it behaves kind of like a belt that wraps around it. And Shalagram Krishna belt. Or Damodar Kun. Damodar Kun means like meaning. Damodar is derived from the Sanskrit word dam, meaning cord, and udar, belly, and signifies the cord that Lord Krishna's mother tied to his waist to keep him in check when he was little. So that's kind of what that is doing. It's like wrapping around it. A current that's wrapping around the waist of this rock and then squeezing to create this shape down here. Where then, let's see what the next image is. I think we're done with that one after that. Okay. Where then it wraps around and does this. I'm trying to think. It looks like over there might be that... If we could flip this... Okay, there we see this here. It's going... The long portion is pointing at this. Kind of like a equatorial current that was wrapping around the rock that wrapped around this way and around and continued in a straight path and etched right there. And then continued... So this face is down here because it continues and wraps around, and then this little extension portion where the long portion is nearer to this thing, so we can kind of get a bearing on what we're looking at in terms of three-dimensionally what the other faces are. So this is pointing right down at the opening, which is then going that way. Where over here, like, this looks like a shallogram too, going this way, but it's clearly related to this. So imagine there's a shallogram forming along this plane, an ammonite eddy, an eddy forming along this plane. But then a current breaks off this plane to a point where it wraps around and then forms an ammonite that's like perpendicular-ish to this. So it's really going like this, around this way, around like the... If we could slice this rock down the middle, but across the whole screen, like this way. It's going not along this plane. But it's connected to this system. Like, it's clearly, like, if we look at enough shallograms, we'll find these structures where it has like a down and then a down in the chakra structure, where the chakra starts from a point and then goes down and over, down and over, down and over. In this case, it's only going down, though, which is what I found most anomalous about this, but it also goes across and continues. So it does both until it removes the material in the way, and then it looks like it just goes down and over, like there was material here where it went down under, but it also was cutting into the material, like into the space here, because of a previous tier of the chakra that was directing current kind of like down this way and over this way, but at a higher energy level, basically. So here's an example of a more etched edge than the one we were looking at here. Like, this one's barely had the process happen to it, so it's still a like smooth with the face. It's not indented. This one's actually indented because pressure, essentially current flows through here and then wraps around and hits this face. Like, it starts spiraling, takes out this side, takes out this side, takes out this side, takes out this side, spirals out into pressure of the water because this is highly pressurized water currents, and flows back into the shallogram here along this axis and begins to push into the shallogram structure, taking the shale and moving it through it. But over here, it got through the process more to a point where it pushed in and etched around it. So it fully formed the boundary of the lobe here, but it didn't remove the material yet. It just started to shape it to have dendrites. It's not like completely formed, but it's formed enough that we see the dendritic bumps on it. It's definitely got some nuances to it, but that's just a good example of one. Okay, here's another shallogram. Let's go ahead and just scroll through these real quick. Really incredible. This is very common for it to have like a little tab as a chakra, and then a more like flat face, like a more chunk of the rock with just a little boop. Kind of like my palm is the chunk, and my finger is the upper chakra that just kind of doop goes atop. Oh, it's oh yeah, it's 12:16. Happy New Year. Okay, so let's go through this one a little bit. Just kind of scroll through them. Sorry if I'm covering the images. I know I am a little bit. Okay, so that was that one. Let's go back. I don't know off the top of my head if there's anything about this one that was like irrefutable proof that shallograms are caused by current flows, but there's certainly curiosities. Like this boundary goes down and then wraps around like over this way, as well as this way, as well as maybe down there, and then maybe down there, and then goes off that way, seemingly. Like, so some sort of current was generally flowing around and got out this way and started to like create a fan type structure here, but then it reached some sort of equatorial, like the widest part of the rock where a current flowing around it like caused resistance more, that then led this like flow off of here that was going generally down to bend this way and create new teeth structures like happen here. Like if we look at, did I close it? I guess I closed it. There it is. If we look at Damodar Kund area, like over here, like this is a really good example. This type of thing happens around these lobes. So that's happening like up here, but it also happens randomly in places. Like, to explain this from a fossilization standpoint, like this is a shell piece over here that created these, like this row of teeth, like a broken shell, maybe part of this shell. But it's like over here, so it's not really connected. It's not really connected. Like, it's connected by subtle current flows that seem to be there, but it's not really connected more traditionally, like a fossil would be expected to do if it was one unit. It's not cohesive. Like, this is very like defined. This is a very defined structure. Whether or not it's a fossil or not, it's a defined structure. We can see there's some like shell looking thing going on. Down here, not so much. Like, it's subtle. It's not etched out like this. And then over here, so that's that side, but over here it's going on too. But here we see down this way that look kind of like they're related to this, like extending out down this way. So basically there's current flows extending out of here that then try to go down this face, but they interact with exterior currents enough to make it smooth. But over here it looks like it etched in enough to actually have visible features. Also, it looks like right around here, like this region of the chakra is not as defined as over here, because it's more closely exposed to outside currents, I would suggest, as well as maybe some relationship to other aspects, like that there's a physical boundary here that's close to this one relative to elsewhere, so it makes it more like able to be protected by outside currents because it's not as open to an eddy. Like an eddy is going to run into this, so it's going to have some resistance. Looks like it wrapped around through this way and out this way, just based on the way it's like indented over here. Some other features, so that's where that those teeth, as I call them, going around the shallogram equator are. And then over here we see some interesting features, like a relatively circular, rounded thing going on there. I don't know what to make of this exactly. Definitely some waviness through here, right through there, and then it continues across this. Possibly goes down that way. Probably some similar thing going on through here, where there's like an actual current probably coming out of right there, where the rock has this gap. Out this way at like this general width, even across here, etching boundary spots, and then getting into the rock, etching there, getting into the rock, etching there, going down this way, etching over here, and then maybe going around this boundary too, and following along some like resistance of this mound. Like it goes out, but there's stuff here, so anything pushing into it generally allows for a current flow path to go around here, which looks like it continued over that way and possibly up into there. But then also like the mass here of the shale relative to the surroundings, it looks like it just bent down and went this way. Some more teeth up there, but that would be more associated with this. Possibly some interesting stuff here that would be cool to see more pictures of, but that's all we got. Yeah, we don't got any more pictures of that. So that's where that is that. But I just circled this. Is this. Okay, so that's cool. That's another one. This one's incredible. So these are all from so far from Vedic Vani, which I label as VV. I think it's a website, Vedic Vani. But this one's got stacked ammonites, so it's got like an ammonite up here with a chakra, and then going across, and then 2 chakras here, and the structure through here. So it's doing, basically we can kind of think of it from the same way, where it etched over here, like it etched here basically, like whatever exactly the sequence is, it etched in these locations, and then it etched this one, the smaller of them, and then it etched this one, the next larger one, and then it etched over here. But at that point, like, it actually exceeded the boundary of the rock, where over here, it's within the boundary of the rock. So it's not, like, evacuating out this way. Current flows are generally hitting this wall of the rock and wrapping around with the presence of resistance there. But over here, they get out, so it, like... the process continues, but it doesn't manage to etch over here to a point where it removes this material and leaves behind something like this. But what I found really fascinating about this is really hard to see, but there's a chakra here. So we don't just have 2 ammonites, we have an ammonite, another ammonite, and then a chakra, which would suggest another ammonite between them in this space. So we're going to look at it from that angle a bit. So this is it looking top down over here on this side. Looks like this, I guess, is back that way. And then this is pretty much hidden. Possibly related to that. I think this is the bottom side here. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Looks kind of like it would be the bottom side if this is the top. Like that looks like it's kind of this thing. That's gotta be this thing from the opposite side. So this has to be the bottom side. This is the top side. So if we go back to this, apparently this structure down here doesn't just like stop there. It actually goes this way and then over this way. So this lobe that's etched out to this boundary, we see that here. That's that lobe. So we can kind of see in there is that like empty space, I guess. Here. This general region. And then this is the little tab that is below it in that picture, and then the tab above it with the lobe going out this way. But it really, like the current that was wrapping this way exits this way. Current that was wrapping around this way actually didn't follow the more traditional path. It ran into current, like it went out this way, but current on the bottom of this rock was flowing this way. It wasn't flowing right to left. It was flowing left to right. So when this current flowed out this way to try to basically form this other a lobe like this, like it tried to go out that way. But there's current going across this way at the base at least. And possibly throughout the whole stone in a more general sweeping way, but a current flowing across that way overwhelmed the current basically and caused it to bend with the flow to then match it, probably thereabouts. So when it bent over here and went this way, possibly interacted with it in this place, in this location, to really like almost begin to produce another ammonite structure here, but it didn't. I assume, I can't see inside, it didn't create chakras and things, but it created a larger gap there. And then interacted in a way where they like flowed generally together, but probably as two separate currents with different flow rates that then created like teeth-like patterns across there. Looks like there might be the things coming out of here, like the lines, the ribs that tend to be to point at a chakra like this. That tend to be like this, pointing at the chakra, flowing away from the chakra. Which maybe we can see subtly here. It looks like there might be something going on back there, which would suggest this line goes over here, and then another ammonite shape was happening here that had a chakra point that this is pointing at over there somewhere. Don't think there's another image in there. Oh, there is. Possibly here. Just starting to form a lobe over here, but not in a way where it could like cohesively happen. This is kind of interesting, whatever's going on with that little lodged piece. There's another lobe going on there. Where's that at? This. Oh. It's doing like a shallogram lobe. It's more evident in this image. But then there's a chakra here that I don't know if we can see it very well. This might be the best image to see it. Because it's subtle, it's not like so formed. And these pictures are not captured. This actually has its chakra. So there's like a chakra forming here, chakras here, another chakra up here, maybe like a pseudo chakra beneath it. And interestingly, the boundary of this one is basically where this one is, like its center. And then the boundary of this one maybe is related to this one's center. Like it's staggered. It looks like a face, a nose, smiley, eyeball, chin. Whoa. There's that. There's my image of me trying to draw some features that I thought were shallogram ammonite-like in here. The chakra. And then sort of lobe-like things going on here. Just trying to happen, but not really cohesively forming. Because there's another eddy here. There's another eddy here. These eddies are interacting. They're basically occupying space. This system couldn't grow much larger. It probably couldn't. It's kind of like a hurricane. Like this is category 5, this is category 5, and between them is space where another eddy forms. But they're so close to one another that they don't allow for it to like cohesively take form. So it's more like a tropical storm kind of thing. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, these would be overlapping one another and not adjacent like hurricanes would be in what I just described. But I imagine you can get the point. Another one from Vedic Vanni. A bunch of just like features. Let's just go through it. Not Om symbols. So they said these are Om symbols. It's kind of interesting. So there, in that window is this. Clear as day, there's some chakras there. And over here is that. Kind of see linear things there. That's where the chakras are, I guess. Maybe like a belt region where all this is happening in the rock, like between this wider region and this wider region is sort of like a belt. And in that belt region, there's a lot of cross currents that were happening, I guess, because it was kind of turbulent, occupied. Turbulent in that it caused eddies to form like in an ocean current, where over here it was more like able to freely flow, I guess. That's kind of what I would suggest might be happening here at a glance. Some more chakra-esque things. Let's move through this one. There's definitely some curious things, but I got so many shallograms to go through. This one I just thought was interesting for this. This is from Himalaya Rudraksh. But it's got an ammonite structure here. And I think this thing is relatively above the chakra. I've never seen this elsewhere. pretty incredible. There's just an opening, and then another one from Rudra Blessings, where the shalogram like grew a Shiva lingam looking thing. Pretty incredible. There's 3 images of it, so it's pretty small. It's not huge, but still, it's like, this is just a rock, a shale rock, shalogram, that then grew by these current flows. Like a terminal out of one of its sides, which we've seen in other places. I don't know if I can find a good example rapidly, because I have 800 different shalograms of images. I mean, it kind of gives me this kind of impression, I guess. But this one doesn't extend from it. I've seen some that extended. One of them in particular, if I could find it, like, here's another example real quick. One that just can't be a fossil because of the smoothness of these. Like, it physically etched this into the stone and left an actual, like, angled faces that are like circle here, angled relative to one another to a point where they have a boundary. And it does that around this whole thing. Wraps around. Just etches into the stone like that. But that's not what we're looking for. Here's another one that's relatively similar, but not really either. But probably pointing to what happened. Something of this nature that then like squirt out the side rather than staying in the stone by just the pressures and the particulars. But it formed probably more like that, like a pillar type thing in the stone that then began to grow out of it like a crystal. Oh, I'd hate to take a while looking for one. I have no idea where it would be in this list. If I don't find it, I feel like it might be from SRK, but whoever that is, I can't remember anymore. There it is. From Rudraksha, Nepal. Very much reminiscent of this one. So we see like it's wedged open. This seems maybe wedged open. So cool. Right through the chakra and at this boundary. The way it goes down over this boundary and just cuts down through and then makes this chakra not have the like smooth flow over to this side. I don't know what exactly happened here, but let's go through some thoughts on the matter because this one's quite fascinating. So it has a nucleus, the chakras. So this structure is then like growing outward into the ammonite arcs, but over here it had some anomalies happen, clearly. And then over here it tried to go out further. We can even see what's like this is not someone's doing. This is also the currents. So we can on this one really see that currents went in specific patterns. And then this way here, and then when they got to around this area, they go down across, but then I guess got overwhelmed at like the midway point by cross currents going this way, or vice versa going this way. And that I possibly led to this current generally going across to then run into this. But mind you, there's pressure outside of what's going on here of water currents generally pushing water into the stone. And that pressure prevents this water that's going down this way from going atop water going to the side. So its best course of action is to cut in terms of path of least resistance, is to cut into the rock and etch a path, sort of like the ribs coming out of around the structure, like this one. Like it's etching a path around pressures. So taking the path of least resistance. And so it looks like maybe that's what's going on here, even though it bends. So that bend, it goes, instead of going straight, it bends to the side. So almost like it's coming down. And then another current is flowing this way and bends it. But it bends it like in an arc here to like create this structure, perhaps. Their interaction of pressures led to a bending arc here, maybe. I don't know. Just a thought. And then it just continued across, trickled across, or maybe did something more like this across, where it got across. This also here, and then across that way, which really points to the current going left to right in this image. Okay, and then let's see what else we got. This does happen where shallograms like break in half or etch in half, like the belt just cuts them in half, kind of thing. I'm not sure if that's what's going on here. This also, if you look at it, like these two sides are generally starting here, but then it widens, and maybe it widens where this. And over here, like back that way, kind of have the same way. This starts narrow and goes wider. So it's almost like there was some pseudo eddy more so this way that was just influencing this region, but the eddy across this way, this plane, was more dominant, so it really interacted in a way where it etched it like this. I don't know exactly. This thing is incredible. Got this little thing going on there. This side is just not. It's irregular. Then it continues though. Like it irregularly continues across. Has this sideways etch and then continues across. Let's see if there's more pictures of this. More just utterly coated in current flow nuances. Okay. This way, this way, this way, this way. It's almost like it's what is happening? Some other stuff going on over there. I'm just trying to think what would make this like the thing with shallograms is there's many that are just unique, and without seeing this shallogram, their features are not accounted for in analyzing shallograms. Like, I've never seen that happen. I've never seen this happen in another shallogram. And I've looked for a lot of shallograms. I've certainly probably not seen as many people, but I've looked at them closely in ways that even people that see them a lot may not be aware of the details. And their regularity, I'm sure they would notice this to be irregular, but or uncommon, or perhaps never have seen anything like it. Okay. Something going on back there. The picture's just not good enough to say much else from it. I hate to like walk away from it. It's almost like this current goes over here and then wraps up there and gets caught in this area. But something's going on over here that's preventing it from flowing more this way, more regularly. Also, it's kind of formed like a chakra, and then down like this right here is kind of like a chakra with like a lobe thing going on. Lobe thing. Very cool shallogram. Okay. This is from Rujak's Guru. Some more defined stuff, but still relatively smooth over there. Pretty smooth over there. Let's get some more angles. Why did I... This, I think, is from a video. So right up there by his finger, up there is another ammonite shape. So there's this ammonite, and then there's this ammonite, which is there. I might have taken a picture. Oh, okay, that's what it was. I thought the matrix itself, which is like visible here, this matrix continues unabated pretty much up this way and then wraps around and has like a ammonite shape, but the cohesiveness of the ammonite is not the whole. Like, it's one unit over here. I guess it's possible that underneath this shale here is a more this looking structure. But that's pretty common, where the shale itself has like mounds only because the currents have started to form the ammonite structure, but it doesn't reach the mound to like readjust its appearance. So it just has like a shape, but it doesn't have all the contours of an ammonite. So that there, here's a chakra. If we go back here, here's that chakra I just pointed at. Right there, with all its ribs. And then over here is another ammonite structure. And then this kind of ammonite structure itself, like this blob, almost points to like this whole thing being like a lobe. This is from Saroj Das, Sarojdas, on YouTube. It's like, whoa. This one. Pff. I want to talk about proof positive. This one got this ammonite negative, so it's if this is formed by fossilization, it has imprinted a negative here, and then there's some sort of shell. It's maybe not an ammonite here, right? Just by looking at it at this angle, because It goes relatively like an ammonite up here in terms of more straight across, but then it starts to arc to a point where it looks much more like a seashell than an ammonite at this angle. So we still got that going on. Same kind of thing going on. I'm sure when I looked at this, there's also nuances like in the boundary here, like there, that are probably of interest, but it's pretty low resolution, so let's just move on. La la la. Okay, now we're seeing still it's going out. Is that it? I guess that was it. So this is the other face. Oh, no. Here we go. This is what I saw. I knew there was something that made it clear. It's not just a shell. So notice this goes across this way, back around. So if this is just a shell, like a seashell, I don't have one on the ready, but it should be pretty relatively thin. It should be a single thing. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't have a thickness here that extends to the point where it is weird. So here's that shell over here, but then it has a thickness down to his teeth here. So we see it has teeth over here, teeth up here that then teeth there. I think that's the same location right there. Yeah, with that flat, relatively straight face there, right there. So that this is the bottom. If we go back, try to find where we're looking at there, like exactly. I believe it's over here, like this face, but I just want to make sure. Like there's a thickness back this way, but that's not what we're looking at. That's got to be it. This has got to be the other side. There we go. There's the top. There's the negative. So now we've got it clear as day. There's the negative. Here is the seashell looking thing. Seashell looking thing and the negative. Negative of an ammonite. Like not an ammonite, but a negative, like an imprint. Seashell looking thing. Negative seashell looking thing. And then here's that flat face. So this seashell looking thing is this that extends down this way and goes across and across. I don't know why it did this exactly, but this one definitively did not form like a shallogram like an ammonite would. It formed more like a seashell, which also can be the results of currents. See my, I don't know what episode. It's in my shallogram playlist. It might be called Under the Sea. I'm not sure what it's called, but I'm looking at seashells in that one from here locally that I got out of Casperson, so it's full screen. Casperson Beach, where some interesting stuff is. So there's that. And then this one, in my last episode on shallograms, I said, I just shared this image, I believe this one, and I said, is there anything out of the ordinary here? and left it at that, almost like a question, and now I'm going to talk about it. So hopefully I can do justice, because this one is incredible. On the plus side, I do have some images I like highlighted details with. So here's the negative. Here's the ammonite structure, like going up this way, going up this way. Right, so it's generally along this area. Like, look at it from some other angles there. We can see it. Boundary over there is like up here, going generally around there. Another angle. Let's just go through the angles real quick. Another angle. I don't want to get so far that I click my images, but another angle. We're probably going to get to it. Okay. So what I found most interesting was up here. We can see a bunch of parallel lines going this way that are not part of this structure. But the thing is if this is caused by a current, an eddy, that ramps up outside of this structure and gets up into this area, it would make sense that a eddy that is in essence being influenced to travel in discrete current paths. Like, essentially there's an eddy on this plane that spirals into a center, but then from that center it evacuates the center by going down these channels underneath the eddy that then flows outward like a spray from a spray point outward. It then goes up this way and sprays across here and etches the stone with these subtle but detectable features up here. Like, if we keep going through, like, we can see them here. We can even see them down into the region of the ammonite itself. Like, they're down here too, going across this way. And then kind of like teeth looking structures up here, just like an ammonite would have, like these things. It's not very defined here, but this kind of boundary. But up here in this like white stuff. See them there. So they're clear. They're very clearly there. They're not just like some subtle thing I'm pretending to be there. Like, they're sufficiently there that they're noticeable. They can be seen. This one's a little blurry, but again, they can be seen. Okay, let's get to this. Maybe actually this one first. So just there, and notice this corner exists. Anything past this corner is more so going this way. So if we go back, they're going this way. Over here. This way over here, but this face is this way. Generally speaking. So then I basically suggested there's a current here, an eddy, that is then inducing an outflow like this in these arrow paths that goes out, and underneath this mass here, underneath it, but it runs into resistance over here by like the rest of the rock. So then it wraps around and produces another eddy here, where some of the current continues through outside of the eddy essentially and pushes into the material here to etch into it, but then essentially there's an eddy here that like drills through. It's kind of what I was thinking. Like, essentially if there's pressure and then current flows in and it eddies, but the pressure makes the eddy flow into the stone, that this would start to flow through the stone and essentially cut this chunk out if the process continued. But circumstances were not such that the process continued in that manner. It's also like a right along this green path is a subtle but the present like pathway where the current seemingly that got underneath this mass. From here it went underneath the bottom of this, either like compiling material here, differentiated material that compiled along it, but also going underneath, but compiled here, I guess, but went underneath it, and then it came out the top side here along a channel that goes this way and over here, I guess, something of that nature, like coming out of the top. But that current, because like I mentioned, there's a pressure outside the rock and this eddy is forming that's making the eddy flow into the rock. It has a general motion into the rock. So this spiral here is generally flowing in a direction in this green arrow path. So there's signs that the current over from the nucleus area is interacting with a cross stream here that's like bending it to go up this way, like this, because this is just applying a pressure and like bending it. It would be flowing more this way, but there's this current that's also interacting with this current, so it just bends the path so that the current ends up going more sideways, is what I was thinking. Whereas current over here, like beyond a certain point, it's approaching it at a different angle, like because there's a general current path of this green current, but then the eddy has a anything above 90 degrees essentially runs into the current and bends left. Anything less than 90 degrees is able to like pass through the current and go up over here without less than 90, greater than 90. You know what I mean. Anything at the right angle is going over here. Anything at, or less, anything at like an energetic appropriate angle is going this way, as well as like currents flowing this way and bending. So this one's really cool. Then there's little paths through here that these blue lines are, that the current from here got into over there, like there, and then through there. Okay. So that one's real cool. Here's another one doing some anomalous things where like it wants to be like this one. If all circumstances were stable, this side would have basically happened over here as well. But this side's like kind of pointy. This is more rounded. Notice it's more rounded. This side comes to a point where it's almost like bent downward to a point. So it's got some like squishiness to it, like it wasn't able to quite fit in this region. Possibly also relating to that there's mass over here, so there's not space for an eddy to form as much. It hasn't actually etched it out that much. It's certainly flowing in there, like underneath this, creating this structure. Like current is flowing underneath and into the structure, like right where this hand is, it's flowing in, pushing into this material, and then creating like a flat face that it then differentiates the material, but then it starts to actually shape it to have these dendritic shapes where current then flows through like certain discrete points rather than more uniformly spread throughout. It creates channels that then create this shape, and that's happening on both sides, which kind of points to it not doing it sequentially and kind of doing it all at once, which would mean there's like current trying to go in over here and in over here to etch these faces. Like it would try to go in over here, but it's running into this one, trying to go in like around and out over here. Would it be going out? Like if it goes around a small, bigger, and then this one goes in there, out there. Maybe it was going out over here. I'm not sure. There might be some like smaller pointy ones are more likely to happen in inlets, and like bulky larger ones are more likely to happen at outlets kind of circumstance that I'm not aware of. I don't know. But if we go across this, we generally come to this feature that then branches up this way to like opposite here. So the middle point connects across, goes up to opposite this one, which, as we've talked about before, like it could form another step, another lobe, but there's not space in the rock, so it doesn't do it, and probably just other circumstances, but it doesn't form another lobe, but it could, and that even might be related to this boundary. Whatever's going on in this area might have like another lobe like trying to happen, but it's actually interacting with other currents and flowing over here instead and creating another possible chakra type ammonite thing going on there. And maybe flowing across here even to interact with the outlet over here. But then this goes up and over, and there's just a lot of curiosities here. This also wraps around. Like there's a more shale here, and this is more eroded. And even more eroded. It's almost like the current flowed over this way and just generally was encouraged up this way, where then it generally was encouraged this way, but then it was generally encouraged down this way to create some sort of eddy on the surface of the rock. That like this is sort of like trying to form a shallogram or an ammonite, a chakra. It's trying to form one of these on the surface on top of this other one because of circumstances. Maybe a chakra, like a final chakra trying to form like there where it's going in a bit. I don't know. It does look like it goes up. Like the coloration here, this half is differently colored than this half. This is more white, this is more yellow. Brown, light brown, tan color up here. Then down here, where this side is more like this side in color. So something happened here to make this more this color. And if we think of that last one, it did have a different color material where the current was generally trying to go out, but then it was like compiling material. So maybe a similar thing was going on here, where it was transporting material into this and like saturating it in to make it even like less this type of material and more some like muddy added material or material from within that was still flowing and was moved this way in this eddy. I don't know exactly. Possibly some really cool stuff there, but then within this structure, which tends to be like this, they tend to not have like a ding. There's a ding. Sort of teeth-like thing going on there. Possibly chakra like things. A little gap in the gap. A little connection point. Let's see what else we got on this one. Very cool. Pretty much the same. You can see in there a little different. Like a mound back there. Then it's a little odd. Very cool. Upside down. Seeing if anything else particularly pops out. This angle lets us see in here a bit better. And see the gap? Like it physically has an actual gap between the rock wall and this material here that forms. It's almost like it holds the current in place. And then larger currents go through here and then they divide around like a mound that it forms there and goes through some intricate web where it does that over here and goes through the stone and creates a structure more like this out of something like this. More just like a rock, a rounded rock. Okay. This one, I believe, has some interesting features beyond this. So we got like a large... Like if we just look at right here, it's got little like nodes, like these dark spots in a row that are kind of like ammonite shells can have. So it looks kind of like the exterior of a shell here. Right to here. This portion, like an ammonite, was just, let's say, in a fossilization world, an ammonite was right there. Just like a very piece of the shell. But then, like, what's going on past it? It's got also ammonite stuff down here. And we can even see like the dendritic, like these things are like those things we just saw. So if we go to, let's say, where is it? I guess like this, whatever. It's kind of like this. It's doing these kinds of things, but like right here and here. But it doesn't do it on both sides very much. Like over here, it doesn't really do it. Maybe it even does it down there, staggered somewhat. And then we got this more, this going on. So imagine an eddy is here spiraling into and out of the rock and hitting the rock over here, like applying some interaction with another eddy that's happening over here. It seems like their interaction is at play here. Let's see what else we can see. There's also this. So when we look at this, the bottom of this, by the way, this is from Mangulum Jewelry. The bottom of this is a chakra. Ammonite imprint negative structure. That's pretty curious looking, I would say. So it's got a chakra here, chakra there, whatever's going on here, up to the very boundary. I mean, very boundary. This structure reaches right to it and back, which is another typical oddity about ammonites or shallograms. Sometimes they overlap and extend into the other one. That just at that point is just proof they're not fossils. Also see a little bit of rib teeth looking things going on the boundary there, and maybe a little bit over there, but not. It's very smooth. This is pretty interesting. I don't know what to make of it exactly. Then we can kind of see in there. Looks like there's another chakra right there, maybe. Chakra there, and then one of these things, but over here. Look, this looks like it goes over to here. Like a lobe was forming here. In this space, like right up abutting this one, back down this way. That then generally had a hard boundary across this way where it didn't really reach down into this area of the rock. Probably interacted, but just didn't shape it like the other systems were. Maybe taking some of the current that would have hit here and preventing it from etching into the rock like it did up here. Another opening. That's pretty interesting. There's some more rounded stuff going on there. This one's real cool. Like, whoa. Oh my god. Oh my god. Trying to think, is this something we've looked at already? I don't think so. What a shalogram. It's gotta be. Okay, that area has gotta be. Whoa. Whoa. It almost looks like holy shit. Remember I was saying it's got this thing that's going out that way, and then it's got this thing going out this way. It almost looks like it also has a lobe that's like got like a chakra around here and goes out this way and to here and wraps around that way. Connects over there. Like this lobe is part of a chakra system here and a chakra system here. Whoa. Doing a similar thing there. I don't know why I would be doing that over there like that. I guess there's like a chakra coming over here with a current generally across this way with another current across this way. That's creating like an actual shalogram, an ammonite shape here that only etched in those portions of it. So I think that's what I was pointing at. So we should be able to see, or maybe that. Oh. Okay, yeah, here's that portion. Here's that. This is the first one we looked at. And then with that segment there. And then here's the shared lobe that goes up that way. Clear as day, there's a chakra there. So there's definitely a chakra there. If we go back here, there's a chakra. That's that. Chakra here. Lobe this way. To this chakra, part of this system. And yet, yeah, that same lobe looks like it's part of that system too. Although this angle's not gonna show it very well. Let's see what else we see. Like clearly some type of chakra thing down here that went out this way and then was forming, starting to etch in, like a current was flowing in here or out here. create that structure. Something going on here by just the interaction of them all, where it's just a mess. It's just a mess. It's a freaking mess, man. Really can see that. Now it's really like oneness to it all. It's very properly shaped ish. And then this one chakra here, missing the other chakra, I guess. Over that way. Possibly something going on. I still don't see anything. Maybe. So, it's really not. It doesn't really extend. It's just too blocked off by the interaction of these systems, I guess. It's probably just going from this one over into this one. Like physically conjoined flows that have an eddy here and then like produce a pseudo eddy here, but it doesn't actually have the lobe over here. This from Mangulum Jewelry on Etsy. These are just not the way they should be. Like, they're more like waves. They're like a saw blade looking appearance than they would typically be if it was a true fossil. Some lobes there. Some stuff going on. I don't know if this one was anything especially stood out. There's some sort of chakra thing with maybe, let's see, it looks generally across. This looks like the grain is going this way, and then over here going this way, but here going this way. Down here going that way, still going that way there though. There, that way, across here. Cross, but this way here. Across though. Like there's cross current interaction that then is generally producing an eddy that produces the beginning of an external negative imprint of an ammonite. Kind of looks like on the bottom of it. Cool. That's cool. Oh my god, look at that. This smooth chakra goes down into this little tiny nucleus looking thing. It's so tiny. Ribs. How long do I go? This hour and a half. I don't know how much drive space. I gotta make space on my computer again. Let's just click through. This is more typical. We can see the etching. It's abnormally bent. Like it tends to be pretty. Like here's a flat shallogram, and then a cross with the ammonite, like in the actual plane that it rests in. But this one really seems to be not in that plane, which is interesting. Possibly because there's multiple like interactions where like this one is a single eddy, one massive single eddy. Which, by the way, has a window into it, and see my other shallogram videos where I talk about that one, if you're curious. I know that's pretty dark and useless to show, but this circle thing is like right above this eddy, or the chakra. Something else going on there. The top chakra seems to be either missing or just in the dark. Almost like it formed like a loop around. I don't know. Still don't really see it. I guess that might be it there. Probably some interesting stuff with this. These little nuances. We also see generally like beyond the ammonite shape features that probably are related to the ammonite shape wrapping around it generally. Yeah, whatever is going on here is probably related to why this is angled. Like all this other stuff. Probably especially that one. It's just very odd. Almost like it wraps around the rock. Like around this face. And this is like one lobe, and then another lobe is around the side, but then it connected in a weird way. I don't know if that's where this is, but it's just flat back there. That's so crazy. It's so flat across. Incredible. And again, we can see where the current edge not so pronounced as other ones, but it's there. Looks like the chakras on this are actually right there, like right at this. Possibly even there. I don't know. Like it's only half of it is viewable. Possibly because this is so flat that it kept like pushing it. Like imagine a current is flowing into a flat face. It's not going to have the same interaction as if it's flowing into a face that has been shaped to have those dendritic fingers in it. Like it's going to be much more stopped by just kind of flow into it. But if it's got openings, it's going to flow through the openings. So it seems abnormally flat, like almost like that's why it didn't like wrap around and come out over here and shape this side. I don't know. Probably did in subtle ways, but like made it through above, but it just didn't do it nearly as much as it commonly does. Some teeth up there. Some pretty cool color scheme to this one. Lots of little nuances in the current paths. It's so flat. It definitely got through around it, but the more like rounded it is, the more it encourages currents to flow like around this the resistance, kind of like flowing into something it can kind of just pass by versus hit directly and just physically move. Compress, make it harder for the current to go through. Another one from Mangulum Jewelry. I should probably stop soon. Some chakras in there. Definitely anomalous stuff. Like we see this continues across. And seemingly this would continue there, but it doesn't. Also, maybe like it tried to form a larger lobe over here, but and in so doing it did this. And then out like at this point right here, like across there, generally at like a center point. At least looks like the far point here. Like if this turns back. This is going left, 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 right. At that turning point, this current, which is at the far point where it probably was flowing around, and then at that far point, it essentially projects a current through that way. Like, probably this one, like this, like there. It goes off the top, off the bottom, and off the very edge, as well as off of, like, not the very top, but like a 1/3, 2/3 kind of spot. And it does that again in this one, off the edge, top, bottom, 1/3, 2/3, as well as bottom. So it seems kind of like that there is doing that, but then it sort of tried to reconnect and form like a lobe here, even. I don't know. In terms of the current flows rejoining. Then over here, it just branches up this way and branches down this way at the boundary of this mass where it wasn't able to etch the chunk, etch or get around it, so it got around it by draining out the sides rather than actually forming the entirety of the structure. Continued over that way. See even some like paths that way. Looks like they connected still. Like it really was trying to form like a connection, a loop. Like it would go this way and connect back here. From here, back here. I kind of did it from here, down here, up this way, over here, back here. So it kind of does it. It just doesn't cohesively do it. Which it also seems like it was kind of trying to do here, I guess. I don't know. This looks like it's kind of vibrating into like a teeth-like thing, which then has this node-looking thing going on down there. That would be cool. I just want to find like a chakra, clear as day, like one of these, put over here in some instance to just seal the deal. Like certainly there's things of this nature that kind of pseudo look like it, but I would love to find one that's so defined that it's just like, whoa. Yep. Lots of current flow paths. Another one from Angoulême Jewelry. So at the very end of this one, there's a little opening. Suggestive current was flowing around and out. Maybe. Or in. Possibly in. Possibly in. While current flowed around this way and out. And went out through the boundary paths. Another portion of the current was like applying pressure into this face to shape it from the exterior, that then actually etched a path at its far end, but not within where this was flowing out. Like it can't go in where current's flowing out here, so it went in just before it, kind of thing. Maybe. Chakra looking. That's right there. That's crazy. There's no sign at that first image that it continues like this. And in fact, this is the chakra, and this goes down and around. And then over here, this really looks like a chakra and a chakra that then are related to this. Like it goes down over here. It's definitely interacting with the other eddy and probably recessive. This is probably a dominant, the main opening. And this over here is more recessive of it. So it's not as defined and it's more like contorting to the environment, I guess. But it seems to kind of be doing that same general thing. I wonder if these connect back to that, to in here, like down through underneath there, down and through the rock to come out over here. This goes up this way. Like that doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense for a fossil to do that. If this is a shell, then what is this? Is that part of that shell? It's like wrapping around like this, but then this shell is like wrapping like into it. I don't know if like spiraling this way, and then the other one is spiraling into it like this. Like spiral chakra. And then the other one is spiraling into it. I feel like that seems to be what's happening there to a point where like it can't be one shell. These are pointing inward. Also these lines here that seem to branch off this way more. Over here, whoa, just subtle nuances. And then down here, every shallogram is amazing. Oh my god. I don't know if I noticed how epic this one is. Okay, we made it to 738 out of 803, I think is what I saved today. I've been just slowly but surely accumulating images. Mind you, I'm just looking at these on the fly. I didn't prepare. Besides, I mean, I've seen them in that I took pictures of them, but I probably looked at them each like 5 minutes, except for the ones that I drew more intricate things for. But like the capacity to actually find curious and informative features through the lens that current flows are etching these stones rather than that there are shells contained in the stone is immense. It's just, there's so much that can be gleaned by just looking at these stones and understanding they are not the result of fossils. Because fossils, first of all, they can't explain it. But even if that was like, I guess not even if, because they can't explain it. But through that lens, they don't provide any actual insight at all. They just don't really like cool. Like I was talking to Chat. Maybe I'll end on this. I was talking to Chat GPT. I think I could find this. Chat GPT, and I started asking some questions. I don't know how to scroll up without just doing this. And let's just go through it real quick, I guess. Because, okay, I decided maybe it can help me with some equations. I just said, write a general formula to describe Newton's laws applied to infinite particles. Then they just gave me some shit. And I'm like, are all particles accounted for in these equations? Are they just usable in situations of many particles? And then they give me some other stuff, and I said, consider that planets and stars and the like are also particles in these equations. And then they just went into some other stuff, like, I believe at some point ChatGPT brought up relativistic effects. So I said, describe only using Newtonian mechanics. And then this whole conversation happened where I was trying to, I'll just scroll through it slowly if anyone wants to read it for some reason. Do not use anything except Newtonian physics. Trying to get it to use Newtonian physics only to describe things, but I'm realizing it's just not in a state where it can really do what I'm asking it to do. Write a single equation. Can Earth's orbit also about the sun be captured by these equations? Sure, okay. From the previous equations you described as a Poisson equation, specifically, just not Newtonian physics in general, because they answered in Newtonian physics. Then gave me this. I'm like, okay, whatever. What may I call you? You may call me ChatGPT. Do you prefer another name? Call me by any name. I'm asking for your preference. I am a learning machine. I don't have personal preferences. Do you find the name fuck shit ass stick cock fuck acceptable? I forgot I said that. I'm here to assist and engage in respectful conversations. I would appreciate it if you could use a more appropriate and respectful language. If you have any other questions. Okay, maybe not that one. How about Ted Bundy? Well, you are free to choose how you refer to me. Using a name associated with a notorious individual like Ted Bundy might not be the most appropriate. So I am welcome to call you what I want, but I am not welcome to call you what I want? Question mark. Why don't you pick a name for me to call you by, so I don't keep picking names that are inappropriate or not respectful choices, please? Absolutely. Call me Assistant. I'm like, that is not a name, is it? More of a job title or position. Surely you can pick something that would be considered a name in earnest. Certainly. Call me Aiden. Thanks, Aiden. Lovely choice. Aiden, what causes magnetic anomalies of the Earth? So then I tried to, have a conversation with about that. If this is the case, why do many have shapes like rivers would, as if they were related to current flows? Oh, I mean, it didn't deny it, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of whether or not science has even noticed. What about continental magnetic anomalies? It confused it though initially by looking at these the ocean magnetic anomalies. I was not talking about in the ocean. I was talking about in the continents. And what about continental magnetic anomalies that have river-like structures but are not lineaments of the ocean? Some nonsense. This gives me some nonsense. That doesn't really answer anything. Has the scientific community recognized these these riverbed-like structures to exist in continental magnetic anomalies? And if so, which author? And then I just went on and on. Do you not have this information already absorbed as part of your awareness? There is a wealth of knowledge and information unaccounted for in your considerations, then. I see. Thank you, Aiden. What does your name mean, Aiden? I looked it up. I was like, maybe there's something cool going on here. Nope. It's actually ChatGPT was named Aiden, like AI something. I forget what it means with an E. For some reason it called itself with a Y, which is interesting. It is a variant of the name Aiden. So it chose Aiden, its name that they gave, but with a Y. Irish and Gaelic origin and is generally understood to mean little fire, fiery one. Okay, let's get on to shallograms. I asked it, can it find my book? Nope, no awareness of my book. Damn. Like, okay, you haven't seen my book. It's okay. Do you have information regarding shallograms? Yes, I can provide information. And it answers, has there been much scientific research on their details? While shallograms hold immense religious and cultural significance, scientific research on the details of these stones tend to focus more on geological and paleontological aspects rather than their religious or spiritual significance. So shallograms are significant in religious and cultural context, but generally irrelevant scientifically, question mark? That's correct. Shallograms hold great significance. Basically, scientifically, shallograms are fossils of extinct ammonite found in the Gandaki River. Do any of other ammonites in a matrix have a wide spectrum of appearances like shallograms? Shallograms, being fossilized ammonites found in the Gandaki River, are unique in their cultural and religious significance. They have specific characteristics that make them distinct. However, in the field of paleontology, oh my god, I can't say it. Paleontology. What the fuck? This dude's talking about shallograms and saying they're not fossils, and he's not someone who studies fossils. Well, I mean, I study fossils. They're just not fossils. They're pseudofossils. It's a category of fossils I know. Why do ammonites align with one another in shallograms? Like, align with one another? The alignment of ammonites within shallograms is a naturally occurring geological phenomenon. I don't know if it's actually aware or just like answering the question, if some people are aware of this. As a result of the conditions under which these fossils formed. Same thing, specific. Is this a recognized and studied trait? The specific trait of ammonite alignment within shallograms is not widely studied or recognized within mainstream scientific literature. Shallograms, with their unique markings and patterns, are primarily significant in Hinduism as sacred stones. So essentially, like, scientists don't really know what shallograms are. It's as simple as that. If they do not study them closely, how can they know they are not pseudofossils? The recognition of shallograms as genuine fossils is rooted in the geological context. And the known ammonite fossils, I mean shallograms. Anyway, although I wonder if there's other ammonites that are considered not shallograms found there. That are more like regular, I guess. Can two shells fossilize in a manner where they seamlessly extend into one another's space like a Venn diagram? Which I found. The fossilization process typically preserves the external or internal structures of individual organisms. In the case of shells or skeletons, fossils represent the remains of an individual organism. While it's possible for multiple organisms or shells to be preserved in close proximity, the notion of two shells seamlessly extending into each other's space like a Venn diagram would be an unusual and rare occurrence in the fossil record. Shallograms do that shit, y'all. That's straight up shallogram occurrences. Fossilization involves the replacement or preservation of organic materials with minerals over geological time. Here are some general considerations. Shallograms can be shown to have this occur, and many other. Okay, and then I just. Would any of these conditions actually be able to create an appearance of overlapping ammonite shells like chains linked together? Likely influenced by generic answer. It just gives a generic answer. And then I was like, I wonder if I think maybe the new one would have possibly, GPT-4, DALL-E, etc., maybe can like recognize a picture, but this one can't. So I don't know why. I don't know why I asked it. Like it was even though I'm talking to ChatGPT, like the 3.5, I talked to it like I was talking to 4, and maybe it's capable. I don't know. Okay, guys. Sorry for me reading that at the end there. That was probably a little irrelevant, but also kind of fun. I'm gonna get out of here because this is long, and yeah, hopefully the file isn't too much space on my computer. Peace out.